This podcast intro, songs AI. It's on YouTube and Spotify. You can use your ears or use your eyes. It's 30 minutes randomized.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of 30 Minutes Randomized. I'm your host, Steve Wimmer, and I am here today joined by the delightful Amanda Eriksen, who is the Vice President of Marketing at I just said marketing. Am I going to edit that out? Nope. It's marketing at M3 Wake Research in North Carolina. Are you also based in North Carolina? And what is M3 Wake Research?
Yes, I am not based in North Carolina. I'm actually based about an hour outside of Baltimore towards West Virginia. But we are a wholly owned site network here in the U.S. with sites from Raleigh and then kind of all across the Sun Belt all the way to California. So we have 17 sites and counting. And it's been a great place to work.
West Virginia is my second favorite Virginia after normal Virginia.
I would agree.
I grew up there, and I do advocate for West Virginia. I think it's beautiful and gets a bad rap. All right, so the format of the show, I'm going to click a button and spin a wheel. There's questions. We might not get to all of them. I'm going to ask the question, and you're going to give me a heartfelt answer, and hopefully it will lead to a delightful conversation about clinical research. Are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Here we go. Podcast question tab being shared now. Wheel being clicked.
Oh, wow.
All right, cool. So no recruitment strategy beats trust. I read this as part of your lead into a panel that you were on as part of SOS. Can you explain what you mean by that?
I think a lot of people are inundated with ads, whether it's clinical trial ads or not. And so if you're able to go out into the community and people can, in a weird way, see you, it's not like, if you see it and you can touch it, it's real, but see, the local staff that we have and chat with them, whether it's an indication that office works on or not, it kind of takes the fear out of being a clinical trial participant. So having that just
so so if someone's walking down the street in a city that you have a site in and they interact with something, whether that's out of home advertising or they're at an event that you're also at, that touch point of familiarity is going to give them a little bit of warm fuzzies the next time they interact.
100%.
Basically the theory.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm super curious about, I'm coming from a background where I've worked on a lot of centralized campaigns, and do you have the same levels of community outreach across all of your sites, or is it kind of up and down? And for something like a central campaign, do you notice that, have you been able to quantify or point to, hey, the places where we have this kind of more broad community recognition is actually helpful? It's like creating that halo effect?
Yes and no. I would say a lot of our sites do community outreach, and the struggle there is if a centralized campaign doesn't do well, the community outreach is definitely part of the halo effect, although we would try to mine our database first just to say who has done this particular therapeutic area condition before, that they would be a great repeat participant, or they completed their diary on time and they helped us have 100% retention rate, which we're all striving for. I think everyone kind of tends to start with that, but it's kind of, it is halo effect where it's not necessarily a marketing tactic. It's just like a reminder, we're here. And even if we don't have a clinical trial for the therapeutic area you may need, they can be a resource to kind of walk people through maybe another site nearby or site network, or even navigating the chaos that is clinicaltrials.gov. So
no one wants to do that, I don't think. All right, just one more deep dive or double click on the trust issue. I know a lot of times people's first interaction is an ad. They see an ad, maybe it's a central campaign, maybe it's one of your local campaigns. Do you have any kind of tried and true tactics or anything that you think should be baked in for folks who, for the front door is an ad, to kind of start to establish that trust at the local level more rapidly or more effectively?
I think it's just being upfront with what you need. I mean, you have seen a million ads in this industry, kind of like I have. I think that's
Yeah,
actually how I started. I found you on LinkedIn. Quite a few years ago, you were critiquing an ad for a company I used to work at, and it wasn't the right approach.
yikes.
And being honest of saying like, here's what we need, here's what's up front. They'll have a million questions afterwards after clicking the ad, but then they'll say, well, you know what? That was really upfront with exactly what you needed. And so the parameters have changed, especially based on what channel you're on. Like Facebook has really upset the apple cart the last like 6 months or so, that probably like rewrote a lot of companies' strategy, that you're like, how do you find that
Sure.
quality? And in large part, it's just being upfront with like exactly what you need.
Yeah, 100%. I think someone clicking an ad is their signal. They're raising their hand and saying, even if I'm a little skeptical, my trust and my curiosity outweighs my skepticism right now enough for me to fill out a
Mhm.
form. And it's whoever's running that ad or whoever's that next touch point, it's their job to shepherd that person in such a way that their skepticism doesn't outweigh their interest or whatever. And yeah, being upfront about what you're doing and what you're looking for is 100% a way to jumpstart trust, I think. Cool. All
Yeah,
right. I love it.
cool.
I am going to go back to our wheel and see what we can come up with next.
It's exciting.
Bing. It's so exciting, even with a little sound effect. All right, so I was scrolling through your LinkedIn and I found a post that you made a couple months back, like kind of talking about central campaigns and national campaigns and just giving some advice and some strategy. And one of the things you said was to test channels that national campaigns might overlook. I'm curious if you can give like any examples of these tests and if you've had any success stories there.
Yeah, I totally can. I think almost every centralized campaign is running on Facebook, which is fine and good. That's where a lot of people are, but not everyone's on the meta unit or part of the
Hey,
meta unit.
Amanda, I oh, I was going to say, Mark Zuckerberg didn't burn $10 billion to the ground for you to call it Facebook. It's Meta.
Part of that, and people don't realize how large the Meta audience network is. So we'll have a lot of centralized vendors or other vendors that'll be like, we're the best at Facebook. And I'll be like, okay, that's great. What else are you good at? Google is really great with high intent, but quite honestly, Craigslist, it still exists in its, bare bones kind of form. Several years ago, I got a schizophrenia rand off one Craigslist ad, and it cost me $30. It was the cheapest schizophrenia acquisition rand I will probably ever have in my career, but um,
Wow.
what a like huge win of just like testing and exploring. And it's still in my toolkit to this day, so we'll see. I think TikTok presents some like unique challenges, probably right for certain therapeutic areas, but I think we'll see like influencer marketing kind of like help out where someone's got a family tie-in with like a decent following to kind of like help that out.
Right on. Yeah, I think I've seen people experimenting with like user generated content, finding people who are living with a particular indication, being the
Mhm.
ones to kind of make that content and have it resonate a little bit more clearly. Craigslist is wild. I just are you advertising on Craigslist or are you just posting on their like, hey, jobs board? This isn't a job really, but
Just in the volunteer section. So there's a
the
lot of
volunteer
people.
section.
Yeah, it's not a job. I mean, yes, you get compensated for time and travel, but it's for people who are looking for any possible option. Obviously, across some demographic areas, I tend to see a handful of sites still using it, but it's kind of been forgotten about, and it's really low level cost depending on how many frequently people post. So you could have someone, you could be at the top of the rankings for like a week to 10 days, and your ad cost was $30 for that week. So, depending on traffic, you have to measure, what the ROI is and see if it works. But it's like almost the main thing people forget about that it exists.
Right on. That's solid gold, I think, and way to dip into the VP of marketing world and say ROI and measure. Like obviously, like if you don't have the ability to find out if this stuff is working, then you're just throwing darts at a wall. But if you can go to a dashboard or pull something up and say like
Mhm.
we spent X and we got Y, it's a much easier story to tell.
And maybe you don't get the RAND, but if you have enough people raise their hand, that's enough to say it's worth trying again, maybe with a different therapeutic area. So, like
Yeah.
schizophrenia, dependent on like medication that they're on, if they have to come off, they may impact it. But if they're low income and they don't have great health care, it's a great option for people to consider.
100%. That makes total sense. If nothing else, this is going to be known as the Craigslist podcast. All right, here we go. We're back getting deep into the wheel. All right, so this is a category called Unhinged Corporate Icebreaker. This is you're at a retreat, but the person running it is sort of losing their grip. If you could instantly master a skill, which one would most drastically inflate your confidence?
Juggling. Is that a good answer?
Juggling. That is a fantastic answer. But I feel like I'm the part of that I'm most curious about is the connection between like self-confidence and juggling. Like, would you imagine you're going to be walking down the hall at SCRS like with like
Yeah.
3 chainsaws or
No, I think even just like basic tennis balls, because it's kind of eye-catching enough that it brings everyone's focus back to like a central thing rather than saying like I'm gonna go do the Macarena or whatever random TikTok dance is popular that my tween would tell me. So yeah, juggling. My daughter's also working on juggling right now, so it's a summer
top
goal.
of mind?
Top of
All
mind.
right,
She's
summer
doing
goal.
cross school days, so it's good for the hand-eye coordination.
It is, and some would say if you already have to have the hand-eye coordination, or else you're sunk.
She's pretty good. She's almost there.
Excellent. All right. I did teach myself to juggle 3 tennis balls. One, it was exactly the same thing summer. I was like, I'm just going to learn this. And I still
Yeah.
to this day can do it, but never progressed past that. Exciting juggling. Well, next time we're at a conference together, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go to 3 booths and get 3 squishies and make you juggle them.
I will try to have it ready for you.
Excellent. I'm prepared. All right. We're going back in. Maybe we'll get a real one this time. All right. So, you have kind of spoken publicly about working with companies that are doing kind of these automated AI solutions for connecting with patients and outreach. I'm really curious about this. If you're still using that as part of your approach, and if you can, yeah, just kind of share like what that looks like in real life, because I see a lot of demos and I haven't talked to a lot of operators who are like, hey, this is how it actually looks.
Yeah, our first pilot with AI for like even just scheduling, it bombed. I don't think no even know if they're in business anymore, but it gave us kind of a lot of clarity of what we wanted and kind of allowed us to
Okay.
focus. So we've been partnered with like Alleviate Health. So shout out to Sathik and John there. Our goal is to help our phone recruiting team, and we are building and scaling the best recruitment team probably of any site network. We've seen them grow exponentially, and that's been a nice help for us because we're not trying to replace people. We're trying to give them tools to help them succeed. So meet patients where they are. We still do a fair number of phone calls, but the Alleviate team has been great at that.
That's really awesome. I am gonna pull the thread here. I'll say my like perspective on this is that typically folks who are coming in the front door through an ad or through some sort of like activation campaign need to be treated differently than folks who are further down and ready to like maybe screen on the phone and schedule an appointment. And sites are often really great, and site networks at that bottom of the funnel conversation. That's what these
Mhm.
recruiters and clinical research coordinators have been doing for years, but they're less skilled at kind of like what I would just consider like lead or referral management. So what percentage of patients, if like you don't have to have this exact number, but up maybe in about, is everyone going through a workflow right now where they might get touched by an automated voice agent? And if not, like what's the percentage?
Not AI voice, but maybe like AI assistive technology. And it's
Okay.
probably like 50-50. We still see tried and true historic, more traditional outreach work. And then, how do you build, the AI engine the right way so that people feel heard, which is the patient, and like your staff feels supported. So I think it's a fine line that probably every company is trying to juggle. I mean, I know there's been tons of tech layoffs in part to AI, but I think AI should just be here to help us kind of refine and kind of maybe move progress along a little faster instead of like replacing us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm an advocate here. I think specifically on things like call centers and the phones, like there will never be a time when we don't need a person because we talked about it earlier,
Oh
the
yeah.
trust that's how that gets established is by talking to someone who knows what they're talking about. But I think earlier up in the funnel, people are becoming more and more okay with, oh yeah, I have to qualify. It's the same as filling out a form. I'm just doing it with my mouth.
Hmm.
You said not voice, so you're not using voice calls right now.
No,
It's all like
software's
kind of text based.
100% human. So yeah, so tech space a fair bit. And then, we get site staff involved, especially if they've been a repeat participant or indication, that trust line is already there. So
Yeah.
not that we don't have the best phone recruiters, we absolutely do, but sometimes it's great to say like, hey, how's it been? Like it's been 6 months, a year, however, how are your kids? I know, everyone's having those conversations of, yes, we're working, but we all have these, infinite family lives and hobbies and stuff that, we like to chat about. So it's a good touch
Right
point.
on. Cool. If you have a top of mind story that you're able to tell, great. If not, we'll move on. I am curious. You said the first pilot bombed. I was going to ask if there's been any speed bumps, and that sounds like way more than speed bump, like a giant sinkhole.
I think what we saw is from the first couple of companies that reached out is they needed us to help them finalize their product. And in many ways, like everyone wants the sites or site networks because you get the opportunity to pilot on like a larger scale. But at the same time, like, yes, we have more staff than maybe like a smaller or independent site or three site network, that's independently owned. But at the same time, like we have time, but we don't have time to kind of like invest in that. So it's kind of a unique value proposition of like, can it work when the pilot happens? And then you become partners and you say, how can we build this, scale it to, this partnership together
Yeah.
where it's benefiting us, it's benefiting them. I think our whole industry really works on partnerships. I'm sure ask any, BD person, we've all got go-to people. So
Fair. All right. Cool. Thank you very much. We're going to head back to ye old wheel. We are running out of specific interview questions, so we're going to get some of the weirder questions now. Oh, and of course we got the very last one. All right. So I know we talked a little bit about advertising. I know you do a lot of advertising. Are you also using any sort of tool to identify patients from the EHR right now?
yes and no, and can't fully actually answer that question right now. Come to think of it. I think
Got
we
it.
did a bunch, but we can't publicly say just yet what we are.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no worries. So I think then maybe like a step up and more conceptual. There's an ongoing conversation on LinkedIn that I'm sure you've seen back and forth about the difficulty and the ROI and the value and whatever of kind of the two different approaches. One, you can say,
Mhm.
I've identified this patient. They look like a really good fit, and I have their medical records, and I know that. And now I have to go try and activate them and see, are you actually interested in joining a trial? And then you flip that on its head, and you've got people who see an ad, they're raising their hands and saying, yeah, I'm interested in clinical research. And you have to do the work of qualifying their medical eligibility. Do you have a preference there? Do you think one is routinely easier or better for reliable enrollment?
I think it depends how the outreach comes. Quite honestly, I think everyone's trying to work on that. I've worked the last couple places to have like those EHR connections. The
Yeah.
problem is there's so many different EHR platforms that the connectivity and like back end coding can make it rather challenging. But we have like a really brilliant team, so I think everyone's trying to scale it. Quite honestly, whether it's here at Wake or otherwise, that it really just still comes down to the partnership. We'll see people raise their hands, even, EHR or otherwise, but it all depends on the physician and their relationship with the physician, which sometimes is not known, even though we've gotten to know them. So it's all a little
Sure.
bit more nuanced than sometimes a marketing ad is just easier because we tend to know, maybe research naive, or we can track and see how many times they've submitted the ad over the years that,
Yeah.
they've been a hand raiser. So we have that like historical context of, okay, they raise their hand a lot, but they're not qualified for a lot. So what, is the accurate medical history that we can maintain? So, if they're looking for options,
Mm,
we can be that for them.
got it. That makes sense. Okay. Um, yeah, I haven't talked to anyone who's turning off ads anytime soon. I have talked to some folks who are like, yeah, the pilot with the EMR identifier didn't work out. So, um, in terms of reliability, I think advertising is probably never going away. Is that fair?
I would hope not. I think it's, at least for my own career and for my staff, they've really come a long way that, our goal is to think like a patient. And what is it that we want to see and how can we stand out from everybody else? So,
Yeah, that's really good. All right, we're in the back third.
oh man.
Let's see what we got. These are all going to be relatively silly. All right, well, this is not silly. I'm asking everyone this, at least for now. I might take it off the wheel at some point, but I'm really curious, not necessarily like how is M3 Wake deploying AI, but like in an
Mhm.
average day, are you opening up AI tools? And which ones and how are they helping you?
I use probably Claude. I've more frequently in the last couple of weeks, and I utilize it to streamline my home life and my kids'
Okay.
schedules to make sure I don't forget anything. If it's not on a calendar, it doesn't exist. But sometimes I'll weigh like various summer camp options based on feedback. And
Interesting.
I love a good shelf recipe, so I use Claude a lot for that.
Okay, got it. Home life stuff is cool. So it's not like bleeding in. There's not like a mandate like you need to be using X amount of tokens or you're getting left behind, Amanda, at work.
No, I don't think so. I think M3 has a really good position of how can we use it to assist and make us the best, strongest company possible, where sometimes I can see that, I have friends at other companies or other networks where there's definitely that, that want and that drive of like, are we using AI? Are we building it? But in large part, I think the people that craft it and prompt write, the build and scale that, it's taught me a lot of Excel cheat codes, because that's definitely
Hmm.
not my strongest part. So don't test me on that.
Right on. Yeah, zero questions on Excel spreadsheets here. So feel free to breathe easy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Learning how to click buttons is an important skill so that we don't have awkward gaps like this, but we're going back. All right. Just pure fun one. I am always interested in what people are up to. Last ticketed event. And this could be like a movie or live music, a concert, theater performance, anything where you had to pay to get in.
Yeah, Florence and the Machine. Um, have,
Yo!
have probably, I think I saw her for the sixth time. So I've been following her since year one. And it was just a bunch of girls all like screaming feral in DC. So it was wonderful. But if you have never seen
Oh,
her,
that's
she is
fantastic.
it's a transcendent experience.
Yeah. So she was touring the US with Of Monsters and Men a couple years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And you probably went to one of the stops on that tour. I bought tickets for my wife and I because we were big of Monsters and Men fans, and then kind of liked Florence, but weren't like fangirls, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we went, and that was one of the dates that Monsters and Men wasn't playing at all.
Oh no. I'm
And
so sorry.
we
They're
came
really
out of
good.
it like we came out of it as such big Florence fans. Like she was so good. Yeah, just amazing live.
Yeah. It's just one of the best experiences that everyone should see her like once, and I think they would feel a little bit lighter when they left.
Yeah, 100%. Just we were shocked by how great it was. Okay, well, we're gonna end on a fun one. I don't even have to spin the wheel, but I'm going to because I bothered writing it, and I like hearing the little ding. But there's a 100% chance of us talking about underrated, overrated conference edition. So
Man.
I know that you're on the road a lot. You've been to a lot of conferences. I want to know what is something underrated that can make a conference stand out or like a little bit better, a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more valuable that people don't talk about as much. And if you're having trouble, you can't nothing pops immediately in mind. We can do this a different way. But if you've got something, I'm really curious.
I think underrated, I'd probably say something from Innovation Network Gathering last fall. I think the format was so unique. Like kind of part TED Talk, but like real workshop. So it was a different kind of like panel where instead of, just kind of talking about budgets, contracts, advertising, it was
Yeah.
about what's a problem and how can we fix it over the next 2 days. I thought that was amazing. Um,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've never been, but I've heard a little bit. It's like these smaller groups, and you're really trying to like come away with some concrete takeaways.
hmm And like actionable items. So
Yeah.
the people who are on my team, like I've seen them at other conferences, but they're all doing great things. But really, of like, how can we fix? My group was like all ClinOps people, and like, why is a
Mm,
marketing person in here? I was like, well, when the first office visit doesn't go well on day one, sometimes they tend to go to Google, and you're like, well, how can we fix it? Um, you know,
really cool.
so it was kind of
Okay.
like a neat thing.
Let's go to the overrated end of the spectrum. Something that conference organizers are like clutching their pearls about. They're like, "Oh, we got to think about this," but it actually doesn't really matter to you.
Oh gosh, probably location. I think if it's the right
I was gonna
industry,
ask about that.
people will show up. So I wasn't at the first SOS. I know it was Oklahoma City, but I was at SOS this year and I heard it was nicer. But I think if the mission is right of what you hope to achieve, people will show up. Also, scope was
Yeah, I
really,
tend to agree.
so I was sad about that.
I think like as long as you're not putting it out where it's literally you can't get there, I think the location probably doesn't drive a ton. I mean, I think that's how people are thinking of this a little bit. But I remember one year I went to Boston like 8 times and it got annoying, but I still went because that's where the
Yeah,
conference was. So um, a lot of times you're not making it out of the hotel a ton. All right, I've got a couple more. I just a quick underrated or overrated from you, and if we
for
disagree
sure.
severely, then I might ask you to defend your opinion.
Okay.
Okay, the actual meeting space.
Underrated.
Okay, what so you're saying like the meeting space matters. It needs to be a certain way for the conference to be good. Like it can't just be 10 folding chairs in a room.
Yeah, I think so. And like just on the opposite, scope has grown exponentially where it is just this massive thing and to get in and out is really time consuming. Where is that maybe the best place for that conference the next couple years? Maybe not. But does it need to be that big? I think that's a good question for them. But I thought I went last this year and I thought it was great, but it was definitely packed to the gills. So a little tough.
Yeah, for sure. And if you are not smart, you're going to be walking further than you anticipated. Okay. Food, underrated, overrated.
Oh, I mean, I think the food helps, so it's important. I
Okay.
think depends on what kind
Yeah,
of food you're serving, probably.
yeah. The I will say scope, like my joke has been that you can tell they're doing well because they switched from box lunches to like pretty good buffet line 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And their lunches are on point now. And I don't think it may like you're not going to not go to a premier industry conference, but I do like just get the little like, I'm sad when I know I'm going to a like sandwich in a plastic wrapper conference.
yeah. You're like, I'm not eating till my business dinner at 7 or 8 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. Session content. Underrated, overrated.
I think it depends on what conference it is. I think there's a lot of repeat session content that doesn't tend to diversify from the real topics that everyone is kind of plagued with. That how many times can you say, well, this is how I negotiate or budget? There's always good like tactics, but
Sure.
sometimes it's good to hear from like the people doing the work. So, I've been in this industry a long time that I probably would have appreciated those insights as like an associate director that maybe they're not getting a chance to go to conferences if they're part of a larger organization. So I think that's really integral to, like your learning and stuff like that, that if your company, supports that. Like Magi had a great conference this year. We had some people go and they were like, these panels were awesome. It was just pitching it from a different way, but like people doing the work, not like maybe 2 or 3 steps removed from doing the work.
Yeah. That's really good. All right, we did it. We made it to 30 minutes. I keep meaning to figure out a way to end these, but I haven't figured it out yet. So there's not going to be any sort of like cool, catchy last words or phrase. I would just want to say thank you so very much for spending 30 minutes of your day with me.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Cheers.
See you.
Thanks for listening to 30 Minutes Randomized. If you enjoyed the show, please feel free to like, subscribe, review, or share it with a friend. Until next time, I'm your host, Steve Wimmer, reminding you to stay random.